I want you to take a break and get ready to enjoy a conversation. I'm talking with a man whose reputation was built on bone-crushing hits and fearless leadership, but whose real strength come from places far off the football field. Brian Urlacher wasn't handed greatness, he earned it. Raised by a mother who juggled 3 jobs and still showed up to every game. He was not expected to be a Hall of Famer, but he turned every slight in his life into fuel. Now, I'll tell you straight up, this is not a football story. Today, we're talking about identity, purpose, and what happens when the cheers fade and the game is over. This is Brian Urlacher, the human story of rising to greatness, rebuilding, and refusing to stop moving forward. Brian, welcome. How you doing?
Hello, Dr. Phil. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, really glad to talk to you today. I will confess that I've been a fan for a long, long time.
I appreciate it. It's mutual. Thank you.
Been watching you since New Mexico. So it's great to sit down and talk to you. And for people that don't know, if we've got some women, for example, that may not be football fans, although half of NFL fans are women, you are one of the most iconic linebackers to ever play the game. But the real story with you began a long time before you ever became a legend with the Chicago Bears, long before you ever made it into the Football Hall of Fame. Those are things that I really want to talk to you about today. Well, you've got something that you call the next play mindset beyond football. Tell everybody what you mean by that.
So when I played, it was very helpful for me when I played because after in football, the most important play in football is the next play. I try to preach that to my son and the kids when I talk to them is it doesn't matter what you did on the last play, whether you made a great play, you made a mistake, or something bad happened, good happened, doesn't matter. You have to worry about the next play. That's the only play that matters in football. And I think it really helped me on the football field. In life, it hasn't been as great. You know, I find it easier to get over my failures off the football field. Football, it was great, but like I said, in life, it hasn't been as great because you have to learn from your mistakes in life. You have to grow from them. Try not to make the same mistake twice. It's just like football as well. You can't make the same mistakes over and over, or you won't be on the field. But life, you have to learn from what you've done wrong and your failures, and try and grow from them.
Not anywhere near your level, but I played football in grade school, junior high, high school, and college. And the coaches used to tell me they'd get us around at the end of a practice or game and say, "Men, football teaches you about life." And we'd roll our eyes and, yeah, kind of punch each other and roll our eyes.
Yep.
And it wasn't long after football was over and I was out into the world that I learned that they were exactly right. Because you get out and life knocks you down and you think back to being down 8 or 9 points with a minute and 30 left in a game, and somehow you wind up winning the game because the ball bounces a different way, something happens, and you don't ever give up, and you realize, man, you just don't ever give up. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. It really does teach you about life. It truly does.
There's so many lessons you can learn from football. You know, discipline number one for me, you know, teaches you to be on time. I'm so stressed out of my entire life about being late because in football, if you're late, you either have to run or in the NFL, you get fined. So you don't want to be late for anything. I was always concerned about that, especially when I was younger in high school and college. Teach you how to get along with people you normally wouldn't hang out with. You know, you're put in the locker room with 55, 60 guys you probably normally wouldn't hang out with, but you're forced to be around them and you learn so many different things about people. Just a great game. You know, you learn how to take coaching. You take criticism as well, which you're probably gonna have to take in your life after football as well. So just so many things that you learn from this game.
I'm curious what you think about the way things have changed since you were younger in school age and all. in terms of the way you were brought up, the way you were pushed versus the way young people today. I know when I was growing up, we didn't get a pizza party when we were 1 and 12. We didn't get
Yeah.
we didn't have a trophy generation. If we got our ass kicked on the field, we didn't go celebrate afterwards. We focused on why we got beat so bad, and it seems like we're in a trophy generation now where you celebrate participation or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Has it changed since you were there?
It's changed a lot. I have younger kids, or they all played growing up, so I've seen it change. You know, like you said, the participation era, I guess. Yeah, when I grew up, we got spanked. Our coaches yelled at us. They disciplined us, and there are also some coaches like that, but it's hard to get away with that these days with the way I guess society is portraying that. You know, it's much different now than it was back when I was a child. I actually prefer it when I was a kid. I liked being disciplined. I liked when I screwed up, there was consequences. Now it's hard to discipline these kids when they screw up. You see a lot of kids talking back to their coaches. I don't appreciate that. You know, most of these coaches who are coaching these kids are on a volunteer basis. They don't have to be out there, but their kids on the team or someone or another, they're out there coaching these kids because they want to be out there and enjoy it. So it's changed a lot. You know, I know if I talk back to a coach, either my mom or my dad was going to beat my ass when I got home. So it didn't happen.
Yeah, I've seen my kids on teams where the coach would turn around to a kid and say, "Okay, Johnson, get in there." And kid would say, "No, no." And I'm like, "Oh my God. If I said that to a
Yeah.
coach, A, I would be running the stairs at 5 a.m. the next morning in sweaty gear, if I was conscious. I can't even imagine saying no to a coach or back talking a coach.
That wouldn't even cross my mind either. That would never even cross my mind to backtalk a coach at a young age, or even in the NFL. You know, you kind of get your spats in the NFL with your coaches, but there's a respect level you have to have for your coaches that exceeds certain things. So, yeah, I can't imagine saying that to a coach at any level. Just that would stress me out.
Are we failing to prepare these kids for the next level of life if we're not teaching them discipline and respect in whether it's the classroom or sports? I think sports prepared me, but I mean, are we not preparing these kids for the next level of life?
I think we're not. If you're not disciplining them or learning, you have to be able to accept some criticism in your life. That's why I love sports. I love my kids play sports. You have to be able to accept criticism and move on from it. And like I said, learn from it and get better from it. That's just the way life's going to be. It used to be that way. You know, everyone fails at some certain point in their life. It's like I say, it's a matter of learning from that and getting better from it and trying to move on. But it's just so different now with the way the things that the kids go through compared to what we went through as kids. The whole dynamics change of what teachers and coaches are allowed to do to our kids.
What are your most vivid memories from childhood? I know
Oh man,
your parents had a huge impact on you.
yeah, my mother. Like you said it. My mother raised three kids up until she met my stepfather. When I think they got married when I was in eighth grade, but from third grade, there's my mom and dad right there. And then so my real dad's on the right and my stepdad's on the left. That's my mother. But yeah, my mom was an amazing woman. You know, she passed away in 2011 after we played Atlanta on a Sunday. She passed away on Tuesday, but there just there was no candy asses in my house. I had an older sister who was tough, a younger brother who was tough. And I think that came from my parents. Actually, I know it came from my parents. I saw the work that they put in every day to put food on the table for us, to make sure we were at practices. It was amazing because now growing up with three kids, I didn't go to every game. I wasn't able to make it to every game for my kids. My mom never missed a game. It was incredible how she'd go to work, she'd come home, cook dinner, she'd always be at our games. The level of care we got and how much showed she loved us was amazing. It's hard to do these days.
I'm one of these people that believes that success leaves clues, that there is a blueprint to greatness. And we have someone here in Brian Urlacher that has been to the greatest heights in the most competitive arena you can imagine. And next, I'm going to ask him what he believes that blueprint has been. I say success leaves clues. I want to know what that formula has been. One of the greatest champions to ever play the game. So lean forward, write these things down. I have spent my life studying success. And I mean that literally. Since I was like 12 years old, I've been studying success. And I said just a minute ago that it leaves clues. Champions have things in common, traits, characteristics, behaviors, patterns that all the rest of us can strive to emulate. Champions aren't just gifted, they create their own experience, and so can you. And so it's very exciting for me today to get to sit down and talk to Brian Urlacher because he is a champion in every way. And so I want to hear his psychological blueprint. And Brian, one of the things you say is that you were shaped in part by hardship, right?
Definitely, I would say, not getting to do what you wanted to as a kid. Like maybe, so I wanted to go to the University of Texas Tech when I was in high school. I didn't get a chance. They didn't offer me a scholarship, so it was disappointing not to get to go there. But I got an offer from the University of New Mexico, so ended up going there. Which, I mean, if I don't go to school at New Mexico, I don't think my career ends out the way it is. Honestly, I got the chance to do a lot of things there that I wouldn't have got to do at other schools because of the size of our school and the level we played at. But I mean, like I've said this throughout your show, the failing I think teaches you to get better. I mean, if you're not getting something that you want, work harder for it. If you're not getting the results you want, work harder. That's the way I was raised as I grew up, and I think as a football mindset, that's what we do. If we're not getting something, the result we want, we need to work harder.
But you were at this camp at Texas Tech, right? And a
Yeah.
football, and you won the whole. I mean, you were the absolute star. You won everything at the camp, and then you didn't get an
Yeah.
offer from the Red Raiders. What the hell?
I was so disappointed. So I went to their camp right before my senior year. I was the most outstanding camper. There's like 500 kids there. I was the most outstanding camper. I played receiver. It was a receiver camp. I was so excited. I was like, oh, they're going to give me a scholarship for sure. And Coach Dykes told me I could walk on, but they didn't have a spot for me for scholarship. They'd already given them all away, so we couldn't afford it. I had no chance to walk on there, so had to look elsewhere. And luckily, I got that one other offer from New Mexico, and I went there.
And so you accept this full scholarship and become an All-American. How
Yeah.
stupid did Tech feel? How stupid did they feel when they watched
Yeah.
what happened?
I hope they felt pretty dumb, honestly. I mean, they're right in my backyard. They're Texas Tech is 70 miles from where I grew up. That's our team down there basically because it's so close to home. So I hope they're kicking themselves afterwards. I actually talked to the coach at TCU, who is Spike Dykes' son, and my son went on our recruiting visit there. I talked to him. I was like, "Hey, your dad screwed me. He didn't give me a scholarship." He goes, "Don't worry, I've heard that story before." But it's funny now, and like I said, if it didn't work out the way it did, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at and accomplish things I accomplished on the football field.
Yeah, you had 178 tackles in your junior
I
year,
know.
442. I mean, you're breaking records and all of that. But why did that drive you so much? Because you've said that you were you were driven by being overlooked and obsessed with doing things the right way. Why was that important to you?
Because I knew if I did things the right way on the football field, and I would get better. I was literally consumed with getting better in the weight room, learning from my coaches. For me, the weight room was addicting. Once I saw myself getting results and getting better, I wanted to work out more. I wanted to live in the weight room, and we had a great strength coach at University of New Mexico, Coach Paulson, and they literally drove us to be in there all the time. And like I said, I saw results. I saw myself getting better, and I wanted to be in there. I wanted to prove to myself that I could get better. And then I still feel like people doubted me as well. Especially earlier on in my career at UNM, some guys were like, "Why would we give this guy a scholarship? He's 6'4", skinny kid from Leventon, New Mexico. Why is he here?" So I felt like I needed to prove myself to those people, which didn't take long. Our first training camp, I feel like I did that, but I needed those people to doubt me. I think that definitely drove me.
Yeah, you could have had a chip on your shoulder and pouted and all of that, but you didn't.
Yeah.
You just said you worked harder. How did your mother influence you with work ethic?
I saw work. I saw it every day. I saw it with her going to work, whatever it took to keep us three kids fed and a roof over our head. She did it. I saw that from age 7, on from her, and then along with my stepfather when they got married, I saw him go to work every day at 5:30 in the oil field to make sure that us kids were taken care of. So I saw it every day. I didn't know anything different. So I always knew that if I wanted something, I needed to work harder for it.
When you got into competition, what did you say to yourself? What was your internal dialogue that you think set you apart from other people? Because you weren't that gifted. I mean, like I said, you had to work in the weight room. You had to build yourself into who you became.
Mm-hmm.
What was your internal dialogue? What did you say to yourself that set you apart from others?
I just, honestly, doctor, I just loved having fun when I was out there. My number one thing was to go out there and do my job. But football, football was fun for me at every level. High school was tremendous because I played with all my buddies from elementary school all the way through high school. College was fun. And I think when you're playing at a high level and you have the confidence in yourself that you're going to do well, it's a fun game. So I always believed in myself. I always knew, and I was very fortunate. I played for some great coaches, and I was always prepared to play on whether it was Friday night, Saturday for college, or Sunday. And then if I was always prepared to play, so there was never any doubt what my job was to do out there. I didn't think when I was on the football field. I just reacted and ran to the football and made plays, and it was simple for me.
Psychologically, I've always said that when we discipline a child, I don't care if he's 2, 3, 4, 14, or whatever, the goal is that it always gets internalized and they become self-disciplined. And you were extremely disciplined. How did you do that? What motivated you to become so disciplined that your standards were so high?
I was always worried if I wasn't doing something to get better, somebody else was going to get better than me. That was my mindset, especially in the NFL. College, you have to work out every day no matter what. NFL is not as strict. You kind of choose your workout time. So in my mind, if I wasn't doing what I need to be doing to get better, somebody else was going to get better than me, and I was going to fall behind. So I had to tell myself that if I didn't have to. It kind of ingrained in my mind always that I need to work out. I need to get better. If I don't, someone's going to pass me.
You're functioning at such a high level that injuries can have a profound effect, and then you can't play the game forever. And those things have to be dealt with. And that's when championship fiber really comes through. And that's what I want to talk about next. So we're going to turn to that next. 21-year-old Mara Murray had just vanished without a trace. On the night she disappeared, her phone was briefly powered on after the crash. That suggested someone other than Mara had turned on the phone. It all comes down to a single question. What police vehicle showed up on Route 112 the night Mara Murray vanished? Mystery and Murder, analysis by Dr. Phil. Available on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe and follow. Brian Urlacher was drafted 9th overall in the first round of the 2000 NFL Draft. Talk to me about that. When that phone rings and you're drafted in the first round, the 9th player, take me through that moment.
Excitement. It's crazy. Growing up where I grew up, kids did. First of all, I didn't go to college. I didn't play Division I football, and I didn't get drafted to the NFL. So it was a huge step. All my family was there on draft. I remember we were in Albuquerque. All my family and friends were there. A bunch of my teammates from college. And after the season's over, the NFL season's over, these guys, all the smart guys project where you're going to get drafted. And most everybody had me drafted by the Bears at number 9. You never know if that's going to work out, but I took my trip there. I like, speaking with the coaches and everything, but you still don't know because on draft day, anything can happen. Yeah, we get the call. I remember, I think it was Mark Hatley called from the Bears and answered the phone. He said, we're going to draft you at number 9. I was so excited. You think about all the years of playing football and to finally get to that level where you're a first round draft pick for a franchise like the Chicago Bears. It was pretty rewarding, pretty exciting. But then you go back to the process of, okay, now the work starts. Now you've got your foot in the door. Now the work really starts. And that didn't set in right away. There was some excitement there for a while, but it didn't take long for that. Okay, let's go back to work to kick in.
When you had your first quiet moment alone after that phone call, what did you say to yourself?
I think the security and the financial freedom it was going to allow my family, if that makes sense. Just because we grew up with nothing. Like I said, my parents both worked all the time just so we could get by. And I think that finally had some financial stability in my family, not just for me, but my parents, my brother, my sister. That's the thing that I think that hit me the most when I thought about it.
That's a good feeling.
That's a great feeling. A lot of people work all their lives and don't ever get it. And you get it in one day. You get drafted in the first round, all of a sudden you have millions of dollars. You still, in my mind, though, I still need to go out there and prove yourself because our contracts aren't guaranteed in the NFL. You have to go out there and prove it. As a first round draft pick, you could have some leniency for a couple of years, but you're going to need you to prove yourself on that football field.
Well, I would say you pretty well proved it. You're the first player in Bears franchise history with a 90-yard fumble return for a touchdown against the Falcons, an 85-yard interception return versus Green Bay. I mean, it just kept going on. 50 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, interceptions, tackles. You just kept on and on and on. And that had to feel good, but you kept reaching for more. I mean, you kept pushing yourself for more and more and more. You started at middle linebacker in the Super Bowl in '07 versus Indianapolis. 7 tackles, 4 assists, got to the Pro Bowl. I mean, when you look back at all of that, it's kind of hard to believe. It's such a storied career. It's got to be hard to believe.
It is hard to believe, and it's hard to believe how fast it goes by. My wife and I always talk, and I can pretty much remember every play from every game, but I can't remember what I ate for dinner last night. It's so funny to me. It's the things I remember about football reach far beyond most anything else in my life, just because I think I put so much into every game, and I remember the things I remember the most are my mistakes, if that makes sense, and that's what kept me up nights after games, whether we won or lost. I would always think about the plays that I could have made or should have made. Um, every game, no matter how good I played or how bad I played, it was always what I should have done or what I could have done. But there are some great plays in there, and I go back to preparation. That was my number one key to success. I think was being prepared every game, and that's like I said earlier, goes back to my coaches and coaches having me ready to play and it being on the same page with my defensive teammates.
Tony Romo is a friend of mine, and he told me even in college, even if they'd win a game, the place where he'd make a mistake, he would go back out on the field after everybody was gone and walk back through those plays where he screwed up time and time again until he figured out what misstep he made, what he did until he got it out of his system and knew it is the mistakes that you remember.
Yeah, I think the great ones are you got to learn from them. Number one, don't want to make them twice. But there's so many games that we lost where I go back and think, oh, if you just would have done this on that play or the Super Bowl. More importantly, there's a certain play in there that I remember that I think if I'd have done something differently, it might have changed the outcome of the game. So I think we all look back and wish we could change a few things.
What role did injuries play for you, and how did that shape you?
Frustration. That's I dislocated my wrist in 2009 in week 1 versus Green Bay in the first quarter. I missed 15 games that season. There's such huge setbacks. We can't control them. They're going to happen. In 2004, I pulled my hamstring 3 different times during the season, and the injury at the end of my career, I tore my PCL and MCL in 2011. The last game of the year, 2 minutes to go in the game. We're playing Minnesota. I did that to my knee, and I was never really right. That's probably what set me back into retirement right there. It was the next season I didn't play like I wanted to. But, my mindset with injuries was to come back stronger than I was before I got injured, if that makes sense. Sometimes you can't. The injury is so severe, you're not able to do that. But for me, it was to get back as quickly as possible, number one, and come back better than I was before I got hurt. And our trainers and our coaches are all great about getting us back on the field. But my mentality was to get back better, stronger, and faster than I was before I got hurt.
Yeah, and you retired in 2013, and that's a big deal for a super high performer. But you said you didn't want to perform below your standard,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a challenge because there is an identity that's gone, and I want you to talk to people about how you handled that and what the biggest challenge was. When you are such an all-in, total dedicated, holding yourself to a super high standard, the silence has to be deafening when you step away from it. What was it like for you when you transitioned out of the game, off of the field?
It was hard. You get in this routine. I'm a huge routine guy, and you get in this routine your whole football career. You get up, work out, you do things a certain way every day, and then when you retire, and not just the routine part, but the people that you're around every day. Because you're around the trainers, the coaches, your teammates, the equipment guys, the field guys who take care of the facility. You're around those people every single day, and that day you retire, it's gone. And for me, it was my routine. I mean, it was hard for me to not get up and think, all right, what are you going to do today to get better? That mindset didn't have to exist anymore because it didn't matter what I did football wise from here on forward. It's just a matter of getting better, I guess, as a father and doing things to help myself personally from going forward. But it was difficult. I struggled for a while. And competition wise, the competitor in me, what do you do now? You don't have anything to compete for.
Well, you spent your entire career in one place, which is pretty unusual.
Yes.
And the brotherhood, that bond had to be so strong and so powerful.
Well, like I said, and teammates come and go every year. That's the nature of the business, and we understand that. But there are some guys I played with 10, 11 years with the Bears. And not only that, but the people that are in the building my whole career, there's the training staff, there's the equipment guys, the video guys who take film every day, the guys who take care of the field. Like I said, they're just people that you're used to seeing every day, and they're your family. They're your football family. You see them every day at work, and you spend a lot of time with them, probably more time with them than you do your actual family. So they are your family in essence. When that part of your day, that they're your family. So that's just taken from you in one day.
Was there a time that you questioned it? Did you think about going back?
No, I did not. I knew I made the right decision because of the way my body felt, and I said, like you said earlier, I set a standard for myself that I needed to play at, and I couldn't get close to that standard anymore. My body wouldn't allow me to play at the level that I needed to play at. So there was no questioning that I made the right decision.
You transitioned into analyst, brand spokesperson, public speaker. How did that feel to you when you made that kind of move?
Yeah, I tried doing the analyst thing for a year. I tried working at Fox for a year, which I loved it because it was kind of a locker room feel out there with those guys. I worked with Randy Moss, Rondé Barber, Jay Glazer, Joe Klatt, some great guys in Fox. But it was still taking me away from my family, which another reason why you retire, spend more time with your family, right? So that was another thing that kind of contradicted why I retired as well, because it took me away from my family more than I wanted to be. My kids were still pretty young, so I tried that for one season, and then I didn't do it anymore. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be around my kids more.
Did it work? When you started spending that time, when you haven't been there as much as you wanted to be, and then all of a sudden you are, did you have to recreate that chemistry, that dynamic?
No, it was always there. My kids, so football is unique in the time we get to spend with our families, right? Because we're home a lot. There's 2 or 3 days a week we're at the facility for 10 hours. And then, we travel on Saturdays to go to our games or whatever. But football is very unique in how much time we have off. So the dynamic didn't change. I was just there more during the day, if that makes sense, because they still had to go to school and everything. But man, I got a great relationship with my kids always. We always spent a ton of time together. I always remember the summers just being outside in Chicago all summer long with them, playing kickball, playing dodgeball. We had a blast there when we lived back in Chicago.
You went through this hair restoration transformation. Tell me about
Yes.
that.
Yeah, most people know me as a bald man. I'm not quite as bald anymore. I went to this company called Restore Hair in Chicago. And actually, they came to me. I didn't go to them, but my buddy, they approached me, and I said, I kind of like being bald. It's easier for me. People know me as bald, but my buddy got the procedure done, and it looked pretty good. And then I said, okay, I'll try it. The good thing was, if I got the procedure done and I didn't like it, I could still shave my head, and no one would know I got it done. So I got it done. And I had some people tell me I looked good. You look younger. And my wife was like, you do look pretty good. So and my kids were not there. There you go. See, look at my hairline receding in that picture. But, it takes a couple people to tell you look a little better. So I stuck with it. Spokesman for the company now, Restore. They're in Chicago there. They do a great job. But it's really amazing to me how many men care about their hair. I didn't care about it leading into this. I care a little more about it now, but I did not care that I didn't have hair before getting the procedure done.
Yeah, I read a study one time that something like 70% of men would amputate a body part rather than be bald. And
Man.
I don't know what body part they're talking about, but yeah, obviously.
Not this man. No,
I'm not one. Obviously, I'm not one of those.
I enjoy being bald, man. I shave my head twice a week. It was easy. It's part of my routine. Get up, certain days, shave my head, go about my business. But this changed everything once I got the procedure done.
I'm gonna ask you something else about your head in just a minute. So I'm gonna talk to you about CTE next. I'm not Jewish, but I know right from wrong. Biana and Neat wrote this book. There were no resources for young readers to understand why hate was taking over.
When your kids are asking, why are they doing this?
Why do people who never met me hate me? You want to reach that kind of age group where it's still something that you can discuss and maybe even affect.
The Dr. Phil podcast. You've really come up with a creative way to break down the barrier. Available on your favorite podcast app. Subscribe and follow. There's been a lot of talk about CTE. It was a head injury that ended my playing time, and I'm curious what you think about that. Do you think that you had head injuries along the way? Do you think it changed you in any way? And how do you feel about CTE?
I do believe I had head injuries. It happens to everyone who plays football. No matter how good you build the helmets or how safe you think you make them, big men, full speed collisions, you're going to have injuries. That's the way it goes. That's part of the nature of the beast when you play football. I don't think it is to the extent that people make it out to be sometimes. And I do think a lot of players, I know some guys who have played the game and maybe faking an injury or pushing a little more than they should just to try and get part of a settlement or get some extra income out of it, which I do not appreciate. I think the guys who have the CTE and who have brain injuries deserve to be taken care of. And there's some people who kind of slide in there and take those benefits from those guys. But personally, I had one major concussion when I played. I probably had some other smaller ones around during seasons, but I don't feel any effects now. Like I said, I remember every play from every game, but I can't remember what I ate for dinner last night. And I think that's partially just about being a guy. We just don't, sometimes we just don't pay attention to certain things.
I tend to agree with you. I think there's clearly going to be some impact when you do what happens on a football field.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there are people that say, oh, okay, I'm going to put my victim hat on here and I'm going to jump in and get on the bandwagon and
Mm-hmm.
cash in on this. And I think that's tragic because there are people that are seriously injured and it is going to have an impact on a small percentage of players. And I think it cheapens their experience when everybody kind of throws their hat in the ring to try to cash in, which is too bad. I mean, that's too bad when that happens.
Yeah, that's very well said. I couldn't agree with you more with the way you put that. It's just, I see it all the time, and they're offering benefits for guys with CTE or with brain, possible brain issues. You have to go through these tests, and it's just it's frustrating to see guys doing that and kind of rigging the system a little bit.
Tell me what this fourth phase is with Chicago.
Oh, so it's our fans. The fourth phase is our fans at Soldier Field. I feel that the Bears fans are the best fans in professional football. They mostly cheer at the right time. I just know that on third down at Soldier Field, as a defensive player, trying to communicate the call to my defensive teammates was impossible because our fans were cheering so loud. So it's a huge deal. It has a huge impact on every game. It did when I played, and I know it is now. That the Bears are playing great this season, and I think the fans have a lot to do with that. I think they're 4-1 or 5-1 at home. That's a big deal when you got the fans behind you.
Yeah, you get a couple of penalties on the other side.
Sure.
And that makes a difference.
It's exciting for the players too. When you got your fans into it, the way they get into it at Soldier Field, and Soldier Field's pretty tight. They're right on top of you there. So you can feel them cheering and screaming for you, but the penalties are a big deal as well. When you get the offense moving in the wrong direction, it's a good thing.
Yeah, no question about it. You've got a son that is playing at a pretty high level. Do you have any concerns about that? Are you comfortable with it? Are you glad it's happening?
I love it. And I told him early on, I said, son, if you play football, you're going to get hurt. It's just a matter of when and how bad. Do with it what you want to. But he loves football. He's a lot like myself when it comes to seeing himself get better in the weight room and working out. When you see some gains, he just works harder and harder, and he's pushed himself he plays at USC. He started out at Notre Dame, got a scholarship there, and then transferred to USC. He's done very well. And the thing I love about him is he doesn't want anything given to him because of his last name. He wants to get it because he's earned it, because he's proven himself, because he's gone out there and put the work in and earned the scholarship, not because of his last name.
I wouldn't expect anything different based on the way you've done the things that you've done, which is disciplined, hard work, and all of that. Brian, on your website, you say that you want to be known for being a great father, that's more important to you than any family stat. How do you measure that?
That's a good question. I guess by my interaction with my kids and the way they feel about me, and that's a good question. Yeah, I would say the way that my kids feel about me and my interaction with my kids. That's the only way that I guess I could measure that. Football is what I did. That was my job, but it's not the person that I am. I'm a husband. I'm a father. A pet owner. My wife and I have a. Now that the kids are all out of the house, we got 4 dogs, some donkeys, some sheep. So we're loading up on the animals here.
Your kids have different personalities. How do you think they would describe you as a father?
I would hope as caring, present. Number one, I guess, present, caring. They come to me with anything. I feel like we've been through a lot, and like you said, they're so different. All three of them. My son plays football at USC. My oldest daughter is in her last year of law school at Marquette, so she's gone that route. And my middle daughter is in music school here in Arizona. She loves music. She's getting involved in that. So they're all so different. They're so fun. We the coolest thing for me is like when they have time off from school, or like 2 years ago, they all had the same spring break and they all wanted to go to Florida and go fishing. And I got invited, which I was very happy about. So I got to be with them on their spring break, spending time with them. But the older they get, the harder it is to be with them because they're busier. But anytime I get the invite, I jump on that and try to be around as much as I can.
It's great if you have that kind of rapport with your kids at this stage. When they get to that age and they're still including you,
Yes.
that's a home run. I mean, there's no question about that.
It makes me feel good. I tell you, anytime I get invited to do anything with them at this point in their lives, I'm very excited to jump on board and tag along.
I'm further along that path than you are, and I can tell you, you never get through parenting. You just start doing it long distance. But the phone will ring. You'll get asked about this. You get asked about that, and you'll find out that those times that it didn't seem like they were listening, they were actually watching, and they were encoding it, and they'll start looking like mini yous and doing the things that you model for them because you're the most powerful role model in their lives, you and your wife Jennifer. So it'll start showing up in so many different ways that'll be really rewarding. These are the good years as you get going forward. So it's great that you have that rapport with your kids.
Yeah, it's exciting. Like I said, they're all so different. It's just fun to see how different they are. They all have different interests, but when we get together, it's fun, fun, fun. And we just kind of reminisce. And my brother has 2 young daughters now, so it's fun to see my kids to kind of be not uncles and aunts, but they're basically are because the kids are so young. So it's fun to see their interaction with their cousins.
Now that you're in the position that you're in, your kids aren't raised, but you're getting close and you're at a point where you can focus on some of the things you want to do. So what's the next chapter for Brian Urlacher? What's the next project? What's the next goal? What's the next chapter?
So I really love being outside, Dr. Phil. I'm a huge outdoors guy, whether it's riding my bike. I play golf 3 or 4. We live in Arizona, so we're allowed to do that here. It's great weather. Mountain biking, golfing 4 or 5 days a week. I love fishing. We just talked about, but that's in Florida, so we'll take a trip down there to go to Florida. But we've been empty nesters now for 2 years, Jennifer and I. It's an adjustment at first because you know everything revolves around them, and then you kind of have all this time to yourselves to kind of. And we figured it out. We've got a good system going here. She lets me go play golf and stay out of her hair, and we come back together for dinner in the evenings. But I'm enjoying myself. Honestly, I enjoy retirement. I'm enjoyed trying to be a better golfer because it's so frustrating. I love the game, but it's really really hard. It's about the only way I can compete now at any certain level.
Is there something that's left undone? Is there something that's calling to you that you feel like you need to do it? Because it seems like you're using your life in a lot of different ways right now.
Yeah, there's nothing that really stands out to me. Honestly, I feel like if I've done most of the things I want to do. I don't. I do like traveling in the United States. My wife likes to go overseas and travel. I'm not a big overseas guy. There's just I'm looking forward to the next step with my kids. Honestly, to see where they go, like in their careers, I guess from here on out, and if I can help them. I'm 47, so I'm not too old yet. But I think just for me, the next part is going to see where they go with their careers and what they do with their lives.
Yeah, and they're definitely projects that you'll stay involved in. I can tell you from experience. So
Yeah.
You know, look, your parents and your coaches have shaped you, and your family clearly centers you, and you've got teammates that will remain lifelong brothers. It just seems to me like you are a very rich man with a very rich life ahead of you, and you've worked hard for it. And God bless you in what you're doing and everything you do. And I can't thank you enough for sitting down and sharing all of this with us. I think your story is inspirational, and it's one that needs to be told in this day and time. And I'm honored that you took time to sit down and talk with me about it.
Thank you so much for having me on, Dr. Phil. I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me thanks for listening to my story, I guess. I appreciate it. Big fan of yours, always have been. So thank you.
Well, when I'm headed out to Arizona, I'm going to call you and we'll get out to Scottsdale National and play some golf.
That's a great place right there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is. Both my boys are members there as well, and we'll get out and play some golf.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it.